guys.
Hey Mark, how's it going?
Good. How about you?
Not too bad.
Evening, everybody.
I know it's 6, but our numbers keep growing, so I'm going to hang on there another minute or so. Steve Geebies, is everything ready for us?
Your meeting is live on home TV at this time. It's ready for you anytime you would like to start, sir.
Okay. Then I will call the meeting to order. It's a little after 6 or so on March 30th. And this is a meeting of the Meridian Township Board, but it's also a joint meeting with with representatives of other governments and authorities in the area. And we're looking forward to a good discussion of joint issues and concerns and maybe some solutions and ways we can work together. So with all of that, we will do our traditional thing and start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. And the most sensible way is for others to stay mute while I recite it, and all of you recite along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, we will now go to a roll call of the Meridian board members that are here, because after the joint meeting is over, we're going to have a short little, you guys, the rest of you won't be required to stay, but we're going to have a little short business at the end of Meridian people. So we're going to call the meeting to order from that perspective and ask our clerk to call the Meridian roll.
Supervisor Stika?
I'm here.
Treasurer DeShane?
Present.
Clerk Guthrie is here. Trustee Opsimer?
Here.
Trustee Jackson?
Present.
Trustee Sunland? Trustee Wazinski?
Trustee Wazinski could not make it due to some family health issues. And someone I had not heard from, so she may show up yet. She sometimes is a little bit late.
Okay, so we have 5 board members present then.
5 board members present. Plus, we have many people here from other
Yes.
municipalities and authorities. So with that, I'd like to have those people that are here introduce themselves. It's a little chaotic here when we're not in person, where we can see each other raising hands and necessarily, et cetera. So I'll try to lead it, and I don't necessarily have everybody on my list. I've got the ones I knew about coming into today. So I'll start out by asking who's here from Williamstown Township. Is Wanda here? Okay. How about Williamston?
Hi, this is Jordan Schmidt, City Manager, City of Williamston.
Welcome. Is there anybody here from Williamstown Township? Not at this time. Okay. How about the East Lansing School District?
Hi, everybody. Tara Chambers, President of the East Lansing School Board. So pleased to be here tonight. Thank you.
Hi, welcome, welcome. How about the Hazlet Board of Education or School District?
Steve Cook, Superintendent, has a public
Right.
school.
Tammy, excuse me, Tammy Lemmer, President of the Hazlet Board of Education.
Very good. Thank you both. How about Okemos?
Good evening, Meridian Township trustees of Meridian Community. This is John Hood, the superintendent of the Okemos Schools. Also joining me this evening is Dean Bolton. I'll have him introduce himself.
Good evening, everybody. This is Dean Bolton, President of the Okemos School Board. It is 6:05 here, which means the UPS guy is making his rounds in the neighborhood, so I apologize for the greeting that you're hearing.
Sounds like we have a free member in attendance as well, huh? How about the City of Lansing? I think we're honored to have someone here from Lansing today.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm Andy Shore. I'm the mayor here in the city of Lansing. It's wonderful to be invited and be able to be part of this. I'm here for about a half an hour. I apologize, but I do appreciate the invitation and wanted to join. It's a great idea.
Well, we'll call on you early to give your 2 cents worth. How about the City of East Lansing? I know we have some people here from there too.
Yep, Jesse Gregg, Mayor Pro Tem, City of East Lansing. Happy to join all of you today. Sorry about the mask. I'm still in my store, so I keep my face covered, but hopefully I can do.
I was wondering if there was a new Zoom epidemic. I wondered.
Yeah. Nope, we try to be responsible for our HVAC and keeping all of our droplets to ourselves. So when I'm here, I wear my mask, but I'll speak up.
All right. Anyone else from East Lansing?
We're expecting Lisa Babcock, but I don't see her on yet. So if somebody's watching, for her to jump in.
Okay. How about from Ingham County? I think we have another number of people, starting with at least one of our Ingham County commissioners.
Hello, thank you, Supervisor Stika. Mark Polsdorfer, Ingham County Commissioner.
And who else is here from Ingham County?
I guess I usually let commissioners go ahead of me, but Bill Conklin, Ingham County Road Department.
Okay, I think there was somebody else here from the road department too, isn't there?
Yes, and Kelly Jones from the Ingham County Road Department.
Any other Ingham County groups that are here? All right. Okay, and how about from CATA? Do we have a CATA representative?
Good evening, Brad Funkhauser from CATA. I'm the CEO, and I believe my deputy, Andrew Brisky, is on as well. Is that right, Andrew?
Yes, good evening, everyone. This is Andrew.
Hello, Andrew. Okay, and then we have the library system, Cattle. Somebody here from there, Cattle.
Thank you, Supervisor Stika. I'm Scott Dimestra, the Executive Director of Capital Area District Library, and I'm joined by, I'll let them introduce themselves, by our neighborhood librarians as well.
Hi, I'm Betsy Hull. I'm the head librarian at the Okemos branch of the Capital Area District Libraries.
I'm Tom Moore, the head librarian at the Hazlet branch of the Capital Area District Libraries. Thank you for having us.
All right, and maybe some other people have shown up who hadn't let me know ahead of time. Is there anyone else who has not introduced themselves yet?
I'm here. This is Robin Cleveland. I'm clerk of Williamstown Township.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
And
Anyone else?
David Endish from Williamson Community Schools.
Very good. Thank you. Is that it? Okay. Well, now that we've gotten the formalities out of the way, I guess it's time to start talking about what's going on in our various jurisdictions, and are there things that we want to share, maybe seek some help on, some issues we want to bounce off of people. And I guess if he doesn't mind, I'll start with Andy, since he said he had a short time. Master Mayor, what's up?
Well, that was no on the spot there. You know, I really am interested in hearing what's going on in other communities, so I won't take too long. We're certainly very busy here in Lansing. I'm sure it's no different than any of you all. Lots going on, COVID related and just in general, trying to grow our city and to work with everybody throughout the region. Many of you are people who I see or talk to or work with pretty often. And we're talking a lot about partnerships right now because they're so important to make sure that we succeed for our region. I will say it was very disappointing today to see in the New York Times that the Lansing region is the 7th highest new COVID cases in the country. So we all certainly have to redouble our efforts. We are still closed, except by appointment only for the public for our buildings, and that will remain for some time until we can get a hold of this. We're working very closely with the health department for vaccinations here within our city, especially in some of the higher areas on our south side. We continue to do significant development work, even with the pandemic. We're still able to do some pretty exciting development, housing, retail. We're doing a lot of work with supporting our small businesses, especially getting through COVID. We're doing a lot of work with our, with the populations of need, with our homeless, with our racial justice and equity initiatives. So it is certainly very busy here. But I do appreciate many of the partnerships. I share a lot of information with the community about the partnerships that we've had with East Lansing, the partnerships we've had with Meridian, certainly the libraries and CADA, and really so many of you all. I should stop calling people out because then I forget somebody. But I'm really excited for all the things that we can all do together to make sure we get through this, to make sure we grow our region. Certainly Ingham County for Commissioner Polsdorfer. We know that that one of the things that we can do is help people to get outside and be on the river trail and do things safely. And we've been able to do that in conjunction with Ingham County. So it really, it's a tough time, but I am very optimistic. And, I'm happy to share anything about Lansing, but I'm looking forward to hearing you all also and what's going on in your communities.
Well, let me ask you real quick, Mr. Mayor, is right now, there's some federal money that potentially could be coming our way. Seems to be limited in some senses to water, sewer, and broadband. You got any thoughts on what Lansing's looking at doing with regard to that?
Yeah, we're getting 51 million, which sounds like a lot of money. But for us, it's for the most part in the first year, we're going to be backfilling a lot of our losses. We are an income tax city, so we saw significant losses because of that. We have a lot of state employees and they haven't been working, rightfully so, not working in person. Our parking system has been killed because people aren't coming downtown. Lansing Center is closed. So we're spending a lot of that in backfill. We're going to put a little bit into water and sewer infrastructure. We're going to put some into economic development, although we spent about $1 million assisting small businesses and we drained a reserve fund. So we'll probably refill that reserve fund and then help out some. So we expect to spend about half of what we get almost immediately covering 2020, covering 2020 to 21 and 21 to 22. Then the other half, we are looking at what programs we can use it for, but also making sure that we are on sound fiscal ground for the next 2 budget years, because that money can be spent until 2024. So I'm sure you're all getting some dollars also and looking at programs. I'm happy to join with anyone else and hear what you all are doing. I know a lot of fellow mayors throughout the country are looking at different programs. For us, we kind of created those programs when COVID happened, especially for businesses and a variety of other things. And now we're backfilling the reserves that we had to use to create those programs. It also helps us bring our reserves back to close to 12% when we were pretty low for a while there. So we're going to use those dollars. I, for one, am very grateful to the federal government for sending those our way. It's tremendously needed.
All right. East Lansing, we have a couple of representatives here from East Lansing. You want to give us any thoughts or ideas, Jesse?
Sure, yeah. Well, my updates are going to sound strikingly similar to Mayor Shore's updates. I feel like we are all kind of swimming in the same soup, so to speak, in terms of economic recovery, We're doing a pretty aggressive downtown campaign for activating the outdoor spaces in our downtown. We did a crowdfunding platform through the MEDC to get a decent amount of matching money for that. So you'll, if you drive down Albert, you'll see a lot of picnic tables, outdoor heaters, different ways to extend our public space into the outdoor space. We've also loosened up our requirements for our businesses in terms of expanding their outdoor seating, just trying to get as many people safely shopping and eating downtown as distanced as possible, but then obviously, you know, as many as possible, slow and steady, I guess. We did delay our big May event. Our art fair is now going to be happening in August instead of in May. Really, we were just kind of looking at the possibility of doing an in-person event, and it looked like August would be a much safer time to do that. So obviously, we're going to still continue to assess as that gets closer. But if vaccination continues as effectively as it has been, we're cautiously optimistic, I guess, that we'll be able to do something like our art festival, definitely not as large as in past years. And probably still with metered crowd control and some of the other measures that we've been using. One of the fun kind of examples of the imagination that's going into this outdoor activation is our underground market, which is not technically outside, it's just in a giant room, which is the ground floor of our underground parking garage. Yes, excited fingers from Ms. Chambers there, but anyway. Yeah, so it's like a farmer's market, craft market, but it's inside a parking garage. Kind of unusual, but we've been actually getting a decent amount of people through there, controlling the number at a time, but we still had, I think 2 markets ago, we had 700 people come through in a 4-hour period at, you know, in bunches of, I think 70 people at once can be in there. It's a gigantic room. So, you know, just kind of trying to figure out creative ways to get our businesses back on their feet. We have a huge sector of our downtown business is dining, which is obviously just devastated by this. So still doing a lot of, we're hopefully going to be able to do another round of business grants with the community development block grant money coming through. We'll see what that looks like in terms of how many grants we can give out. We've also been using that money for public, for assistance for utility payments for anyone who lives in our community that can't make their utility payments. We've been doing, you can apply for aid through that block grant money. So that's been a nice thing to be able to offer to the residents that were hit hard. Just looking at my notes here. Yep, our city hall is still closed to the public. Obviously, our essential services, fire, police are back in person, but in terms of our community services, anybody coming in to pay a bill or something, we're doing all of that through a Dropbox that's all contact free and will be really until the state of emergency is lifted. And I don't see that happening anytime soon based on our numbers, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of new development happening in East Lansing, but we've got a few finishing up our graduate hotel, which is on our main corner there at Abbott and Grand River. It's one block back from Abbott and Grand River intersection, is actually due to open this summer, which will have a really lovely rooftop restaurant experience. So pretty excited about that coming online. That's been a long time coming. Yeah, I think that's about what I've got on my list. But happy to answer any questions if anybody's got anything specifically pressing that they're interested in.
Anybody want to ask Jesse anything? Okay, not yet. I'm sure it'll come up later, Jesse. I'm sure.
Absolutely, I'll be here.
All right. How about what's happening in Williamstown Township?
Well, just recently we decided that we're going to start getting staff in the office more often. Because everybody, you know, we have a very small staff compared to all of you, but pretty much everybody's gotten their vaccine or are in the process of getting their second shot now. So, you know, in a couple weeks, we all feel like we'll be ready to be with more people. Pretty much through the last several months, we've been working with just one person or maybe two people in the office at a time, so that, you know, we just don't have people on top of each other in our small space. And of course, we've been close to the public, and that remains for now. But it was quite, for us, it was quite a struggle to, I'm sure it was for everybody really, but it was quite a struggle to get things done, working from home and working at, you know, at the office. And I know for me, you know, I don't feel good about taking blank checks out of the office. So I'm only going to write checks when I'm in the office. And so that, you know, that provides a bit of a limitation and kind of a pressure to, you know, you have to get all those checks written in one day, no matter what's happening and when they're coming in and that kind of thing. So, so that's probably our biggest change right now. Of course, we're prepping for the upcoming election. And I'm speaking mostly about the stuff that I'm involved in because it's what I know the most. Yeah, so we have a May 4th election coming up, and so we're getting ready for that. As far as I know, unless something changes between now and a couple days from now, we're going to be meeting, our board is going to be meeting in person for our April 14th meeting. So.
And you realize though, as long as the county or even your locality declares an emergency, you don't have to do that if you don't, if you want to.
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay, all right. And how about Williamston City?
Hi, so from a regional perspective, we are working and have been working with Wanda Bloomquist in Williamstown Township for about a year on clearing the Red Cedar River from the city of Williamston to the township limit, which is at Meridian Road, attempting to create a corridor for river activities, canoeing and kayaking. And so the township's project, the river clearing that they partnered with the Drain Commissioner on, I think just finished up last fall. And the city is coming in and doing its part. We are taking a piece of property that our Downtown Development Authority bought about 20 years ago. And it's just been sitting there, vacant space on the west edge of our downtown. And we're putting in a parking lot with a trailhead for the river trail. And so our hope is that we could become somewhat of a launching point on the east side of Ingham County for the Red Cedar River Trail that's been identified in various planning documents over the years. And so we're really happy about that. And that was a good partnership on the east end of the county here between the township and the city. And my hope is that by August, September or so, we'll have that project done and ready to go. So that's our big regional thing that we're working on, trying to become that first link on the Red Cedar River. And hopefully down the road, the path can continue past Meridian Road into Meridian Township, as all the plans seem to indicate would be the goal. The other thing, the other big project we have happening this summer that doesn't necessarily have a regional link, but is an important piece for us, is in our downtown, on the north side of our downtown district. We're replacing about a 35-year-old boardwalk with a new walking path right along the Red Cedar River. So we've got two big river-oriented projects that are happening, trying to, no longer turn our back on the river, which is what Williamston has tended to do for a lot of years, and try to activate that space. So that too is going to be out for bid here this month, and we're hopeful that it'll be completed before the fall comes.
That's cool. All right. How about the school districts? Who wants to go first? Let's see. Williamston, you want to go first since we're talking about Williamston at this point?
Sure. So our big focus over the last few months has been returning children to in-person education as much as safely possible. So as of March 1, both of our elementaries are now full-time in-person learning, although we do have a cohort of children that have selected to stay on virtual. For our secondary schools, we're running a hybrid model where half the days are in person and half the days are remote. And so far that's been working pretty well for us. Kind of continuing to monitor as things progress.
Okay. And as well, I guess we'll move west. How about Okemos?
Thank you, Supervisor Stika. So the Okemos Public Schools wanted to share that we have 2 ballot initiatives on this May ballot for our voters coming up. We have our operating millage renewal, which is our non-homestead renewal of 18 mills. So that's not a new tax. It's was last approved in 2007. And of course, that is not charged to primary residences. That's for rentals, businesses, land, secondary homes. So so that's coming up. So we're going to be advertising that to our community. It's not a new tax. We want them to be familiar with what it is. That for the Okemos schools generates for us about $9.3 million of our $54.9 million budget. So about 70% of our budget is based on this 18 mills. So pretty significant for our school district that our community is aware of this and makes an informed decision that they think will be in the best interests as a voter and hopefully the best interest of our district as we move forward. So that's the first one. That one's a renewal. The second one is our Building and Site Sinking Fund. And that one is going to our voters, and we're asking our voters to pay the same amount that they're currently paying. They're currently paying after erosion of that millage rate, 0.9861 is what they're paying towards it. And we're not asking for any increase. So we're just kind of extending the term another 10 years. It's not listed as a renewal on the ballot, and that's confusing some of our voters. The reason it can't be listed as a renewal is because the legislature changed the allowable uses for a Building and Site Sinking Fund to now include technology and security. So in order for the Okemos schools to capture those new allowable uses, it can't be proposed as a renewal. So, we're telling people it's not a renewal, but it's what you've been paying all along, and we want you to continue paying. So just want the community members here to be aware of that. That again will generate about $1.4 million a year for 10 years from us. That will really relieve our general fund of the upkeep of buildings and expenses involved with some minor renovations and upkeep of our facilities and fields and things of that nature. So you'll see from us in April after we return from spring break. Factual campaign going out to our community so our voters can be knowledgeable about what those 2 are and that they're not that we're not asking for anything any increase in taxes from anyone, just kind of rolling things forward, and we'll see how that goes. So that's one initiative we have going. We would certainly welcome any partnerships in terms of our district's equity work. We have a diversity, equity, inclusion committee that meets pretty regularly. The district is as you may be aware, working on evaluating our current mascot in terms of our strategic plan and equity plans. And we'll be coming up with a couple of community meetings to share what that recommendation will be in April 14th and 15th. We'll share an initial recommendation and get some feedback from our community to share with the committee that's working on this and then with the Board of Education. Of course, that ultimate decision will lay in the hands of our Board of Education, and we expect to present my recommendation to them May 10th and have the board vote if they choose to take action on this matter on May 24th. Other equity initiatives we have going on are looking at some equity training for our staff, and we know East Lansing schools and Waverly schools are pursuing that. And we certainly welcome a partnership with any of the townships or districts as we continue to approach our equity work. We are working with Drs. Angela Hall and Dr. Terry Flennaw at MSU and looking at equity survey that is being finalized and being translated into the 5 most common languages spoken in the Okemos public schools that aren't English. So those will be translated and sent out right after spring break. And then we're following up shortly after with some focus groups that we'll identify to really have more intimate conversations run with MSU. So there's an independent lens on that in terms of, what are the lived experiences of some of our marginalized groups here in the Okemos schools? What are our strengths when it comes to the district, interacting with them, and where are there opportunities for us to learn and remove barriers in our school system? So lots of work going on here. You may have also heard we have a number of openings in the Okemos schools. So we'll be advertising. We have 4 principals leaving us at the end of the school year.
Oh, yeah.
3 from retirements and 1 from a relocation. So we'll be looking to get some great candidates to help move our district forward as we continue the great work of our district. And I just want to thank Meridian Township and all our partners, across the table here. There's so many collaborations, too many to be named, but Frank's been wonderful at the township working with us. Chiefs Plaga and Hamill have been terrific with us, and Supervisor Stajka continuing to support us as well as I know a number of the trustees just reaching out to us when they need something. And our relationship with the Hazlet schools in Okemos has been wonderful, and we just welcome many hands make light work, and where we can not have to reinvent the wheel and we can support each other. The Okemos Public Schools are certainly a willing partner with others. So thank you to all our partners. Of course, I didn't mention everyone, but you do make the work better by adding your lens and your support to it.
Thank you. Michigan government created the way it was. City of Lansing has more than 1 school district in it. East Lansing, same thing. Meridian has 4 school districts. We have Williamston, Okemos, and I'll call on Hazlet next. And then East Lansing.
Thank you, Supervisor Stajka. We welcome the opportunity to be here this evening. So our biggest challenge has been getting kids back to school safely in person. Over the last several months, we've been working towards that goal. We were able to bring back students February 1st in a hybrid model, which is 2 cohorts, blue and gold, partial days throughout the week. Then we started a more full in-person model starting on March 20th, which basically went to both of the cohorts were combined, and we're now 4 full days at elementary and 4 partial days at secondary. So it's been working out very well. I'd like to do a shout out to the Ingham County Health Department for their efforts at getting all of our staff vaccinated prior to getting back. And so Linda Vale and her staff have just been amazing at getting us through and getting all of our staff vaccinated and being safe so that we're able to bring in-person instruction to our students. They've also been helping us navigate all of the positive cases that we've had in our buildings and everything that we've had to do to quarantine and do all the things that we've had to do in our buildings. So thanks to Ingham County Health Department, all the partners that were able to put that together. Thankfully, we have spring break coming up next week, but unfortunately that also brings challenges as people will be traveling and hopefully behaving, but we will be offering testing for our students and staff before they come back in various locations around the county if individuals want to participate into that. So we're happy that the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has offered some locations around the county for tester for students and staff and families coming back from spring break next week. So other things that are going on in our district, we are, like Okemos, involved in an equity plan right now for our district that started about 1.5 years ago. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it got delayed. But we've also been working with Dr. Flanell from Michigan State University, not only in developing the equity plan, but also working with our staff over the last about 2.5 years in professional development training on equity and inclusion for our district. We also did a survey. That was the first part of our equity and inclusion model that went out a couple weeks ago. That's now been completed. We're in the process of putting that data together so we can put some equity planning committees together, and we'll do some focus groups, and hopefully our goal is to have a full equity plan ready to go for the next school year. So we're very happy with the work that Dr. Flanell has been able to do in our district, and so be hopefully moving forward with that next year. We just completed last summer, the second year of a 3-year bond project, so we were very I'm happy with that, about $32 million in total. We had an upgrade to all of our facilities. Unfortunately, we're not able to share those with our students last fall, but they're very happy to be in our buildings now, and we had some really fine improvements done to not only our classrooms, but some of our extracurricular activity arenas, our sports stadiums, our gyms, all of those things for our extracurricular types of spaces. So I'm happy to have kids back in school. Hopefully we can keep them in school. That's one of our biggest challenges right now as we are moved to a more full in-person model. There's more kids in the classroom. So as we have positive cases, it's more of a challenge to make sure that we can quarantine and safely keep of all of our staff and students in person. So I guess that's pretty much it for now. I'll let President Lemmer comment if you have any additional comments for Hazlet Schools. Thank you very much.
Did the president have anything else to say? If not, we'll go
I'll
on.
just echo the appreciation
Yes.
for the health department, our community partners, all of the staff and community members who are involved with the planning for what turned into 2 different stages of our return to learn. And yeah, please asking the community to be safe and responsible over the next 2 weeks.
Tara.
Hi, everybody. The child is going to walk by, right? And
That's
the camera
fine.
always
That's
when
the
it's
fun
my
part of
turn.
Zoom.
Always, always. I appreciate the opportunity to provide an update from East Lansing Public Schools. It bears repeating the appreciation that we have also to Ingham County Health Department and Linda Vale specifically, that has made our road to providing a reopening option in person much smoother, knowing that all of our staff has been fully vaccinated. We had some in-person instruction over the last couple of months for very small, limited groups, but we're able to open that up starting on March 1st at the elementary and secondary level with a little bit of a tweak to our secondary plan a couple of weeks ago, adding Mondays to the schedule. We are really excited about the opportunity to offer the in-person option. It's been going well. Of course, the numbers right now make us all a little nervous, but we are continuing to follow our plan and look for continued guidance, and that's been really great. We are voluntarily participating in antigen testing, so about 100 staff across the district right now participate each week in that. And when we get back from spring break, we'll open up that testing for all student athletes aged 13 and up. That will also help with our efforts, our wraparound, or what Superintendent Lako calls our safety lasagna of different mitigation techniques that we have in place. But every time I say that, it always just makes me want to eat some lasagna, so I have to work on that part. We offered a secondary opt-in process for the in-person return. So we have about 400 and some change students and their families who will be returning in person after spring break. So we're working on making those accommodations to our existing plan and working through how that will all work, but really excited to see more kiddos who want the option to be in person to have that option. Some good news, our superintendent is not here because she's at the boys basketball game tonight. Our boys and girls basketball teams both won districts. The boys are playing right now and the girls play tomorrow. So that's really exciting for us to be watching. Other non-COVID news, which it's hard to think about what else non-COVID. We are amazingly coming to the end of a multi-year elementary school rebuilding project. Our last elementary school is being constructed right now. That process has gone really well. I couldn't be more pleased with the outcome of this process and how wonderful those buildings look and the opportunity for our kiddos. It certainly was well timed in terms of COVID. If you had been in our elementary buildings before, you know that would have been a significant challenge for us to navigate, but the bigger spaces and more open corridors and updated ventilation systems are all critically needed now and are all really fabulous. We continue to be working on our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. I can't say that we are also using Dr. Flanaugh in our work, but since I'm a professor in educational leadership and the Associate Dean for DEI in the college, hopefully my inclusion in the process will suffice. We are in the middle of a multi-year diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice focus in our professional learning for staff in the district. That has been going well. Superintendent Lako over the summer announced a number of social justice initiatives, including a focus on hiring additional staff from racially minoritized backgrounds, the establishment of various equity committees at our different school buildings, a few other things. So we're working on that goal. As chair of the policy committee, I've been working to around our equity policy and specific racial equity policy and focusing on that work and what that will mean in consultation with the rest of the initiatives that we've been taking on over the last several years. Policy is important, practice is important, and we're trying to put all of those things in place as effectively as we can. I'm sure that I'm missing things, and if Superintendent Lako were here, she'd be doing a much better job of telling you all of the wonderful things that we have in play, but she's not, so you're stuck with me, and I'll end my report there.
It's a great report. Don't belittle yourself. It was great. Ingham County, our Commissioner Polstorff, got something to say to us?
Yes, at the county level, we'll be receiving about $56 million in the ARPA funds. And this discussion is timely, actually, because tomorrow we're having a board leadership meeting to discuss kind of what our collective strategy should be. As Mayor Shore mentioned, or perhaps it was you earlier, we do have through the end of 2024 to spend this money, but I'm really of the belief that as this money has been upfronted to us, that we need to, with the stipulation that it addresses pandemic concerns, I'm of the belief that we need to figure out how to get the bulk of this kind of money out to assist folks and businesses that really are on the edge, and not kind of wait into a new fiscal year to figure some things out. There will be like some rural health issues that we'll be considering, but kind of my big priority on this is to do what we can to get the bulk of this money out to make sure that we're keeping people in homes, and we'll be working hopefully with LEAP to develop a system by which we can handle some of that processing of all of the requirements to properly allocate this 56 million. One other thing I'm working on that I think would be of interest to the group. In January, I pulled together a meeting with Consumers Energy, DTE, and Board of Water and Light, and brought General Motors in on this discussion as well. And the reason for the meeting was to discuss our electric vehicle ecosystem for the region and how we can, as we're pulling out of the pandemic economy, how we can incorporate adding chargers in the best way to our community. And all the energy providers have pulled together their information so we can develop like a white sheet to distribute to businesses and share with residents as well. So they will have a live contact at each energy provider on how businesses can best integrate and adapt EV chargers as well as home users. One of the key takeaways of having General Motors on the discussion was how communities are preparing for the electric vehicle infrastructure in their area is going to be a real driving force of their considerations in terms of continued investment and expansion of General Motors facilities. So I am hopeful within the next 2 months or so, we'll have this kind of white sheet from the energy providers together that we can share through the LEAP membership, put up on the county website, and share with the other participating counties of LEAP as well. I think doing this kind of promotion and getting people ready for the electric vehicles that are just on the cusp of flooding the market will really help promote us to those thinking of expanding, and also send that clear signal to General Motors that this is a place to continue to expand and invest in. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Mark. How about the road department, Mr. Conklin? I think I saw you on here.
Yeah, let me turn myself back on here. Here we are. How was everybody doing? I'm Bill Conklin, Ingham County Road Department. Pleased to meet everybody I haven't previously met, and good to see everybody I've previously met. I'll fill everybody in on a couple of road projects occurring in the area this year, and particularly focusing on the Lansing, East Lansing, Meridian Township area. Kelly Jones, our chief engineer, is with us tonight. I'll let her fill in more detail on schedule and impacts and things like that as the group may be interested in. If I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at our project list, so I don't screw any of this up, because Kelly will then have to take over and straighten me out. I'll start with a couple of the simpler road projects that you're going to probably see first in the area. We're pleased to report that we're going to be resurfacing Hagedorn Road between a little bit north of Mount Hope to a little bit south of M43 Grand River. Actually, our jurisdiction hands off to East Lansing at the bridge over the Red Cedar River right there. So that's about a mile of resurfacing. There's a couple railroad crossings in there, and be trying to coordinate with the railroads to get those fixed up and resurface that road in there, Hagedorn Road between Mount Hope and essentially Grand River Road just south of. Also going to be working on Lake Lansing Road between Wood Street and US 127 over in the Lansing Township area, although a lot of folks from the Meridian East Lansing areas maybe use that. It's over there in front of Eastwood Shopping Plaza, the mall over there. So we'll be working on that. And then a little later in the year, the big thing, a little later in the year, a bigger thing that will be hitting the Meridian area, of course, is replacement of the Okemos Road bridges over the Red Cedar River right in the middle of Okemos there, just now north of Mount Hope. I'll let Kelly fill us in a little better on detail with that and the impacts to that. My understanding is the detour for that will be Mount Hope over to Hagedorn to Grand River and back to Okemos Road for northbound. Southbound will continue to flow through there at all times, like we did the last time we worked on a temporary repair of one of the bridges. So that's a project that's coming together. There's going to be some nice concrete arches on the new bridge to replace the two existing bridges. Quite a large environmental public involvement process was held in cooperation with Meridian Township on that, which we appreciate. Kelly, do you want to take over and fill in any further detail on those projects? I know that I mentioned Hagedorn Road both as a resurfacing project and as a detour route for the bridge, but be rest assured the resurfacing project will be done before it becomes a detour route for the bridge. Okay.
You just stole my question, Bill.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know how people think, and I would think the same way, so I don't blame you for that. We want to get that resurfacing done while MSU is out of session. If there's anybody here associated with MSU or City of East Lansing folks are on the line. We want to do that one kind of early, which we plan to do. And then the bridge project, which uses Hagedorn Road as a bypass for northbound traffic, will occur later in the year, more like the fall. So Kelly, I don't know, can you fill in any more detail on that or anything else you want to share?
Sure. Thank you, Bill. Bill was correct that we are going to be working on the Hagedorn project this summer with the anticipation that it's done before school resumes for MSU. And that will be the detour route for the Okemos Road Bridge project, which will be starting potentially with some signal work, some advanced work before the bridge replacement project starts, but that could start as soon as late summer, early fall with the signal work and possibly some little bit of advanced work on the bridge project. But the bulk of the Okemos Road Bridge project will be occurring during the construction season for 2022 with ultimate project completion of November 2022. And like Bill said, we'll have a one-way detour for northbound using Hagedorn or Mount Hope, Hagedorn, and Grand River, and southbound we'll be able to use Okemos Road for the duration of the project. Lake Lansing, like Bill said, that one is over by Eastwood Town Center, and that one is more likely going to be a later summer fall completion for schedule. So as far as, you know, Meridian Township area projects, that pretty much sums it up. We have projects all over the county. If you have any other questions, Bill or I can answer those on elsewhere in the county, but for the most part, those are it for Meridian Township.
Well, I will mention a couple of quick, thank you, Kelly. I will mention a couple of quick, our what we call our crew paving going on in Meridian Township. We're going to be on Van Atta Road, north of Jolly Road up to the Red Cedar River. And we're going to be on the north end of Cornell Road. And as always, I guess I'll take this opportunity to give a shout out to the township itself and our appreciation for the millage program that the voters of Meridian Township enacted, I guess a year or two ago now. That program's mostly being handled by the township, which we appreciate. And it's been a wonderful program, gradually working your way through 6 or 7 miles of local road street resurfacing. Shout out to Derek, who's on the meeting tonight, and his staff for handling that. And that's been a great program, and we appreciate that the voters of Meridian Township and the whole township it came together to really tackle that local road program and start making a dent in those local roads out there. Other than that, we'll take any questions anybody has about road work in the Meridian East Lansing area. COVID-wise, road department has survived just fine. We're mostly our road staff is working in person, has been. We had some impacts last year due to furloughing. We had 50% furloughing for a couple months and 20% furloughing 1 day a week for another couple months. So that backed up our maintenance program a little bit, which we're going to try to catch up with this year. Financially, we had some impact due to less travel in the state of Michigan, about $1.5 million impact to our Michigan Transportation Fund budget, which of course is your vehicle fuel taxes and vehicle registration fees. Mostly the fuel tax side was impacted. Car sales have fortunately stayed up pretty well in the state, but obviously there was a bit of an impact, about a 10% impact to fuel tax collections around the state, which has affected all road agencies. I'm sure including the 2 cities that are on the call tonight. They get Act 51 funding as well. And we're hoping through, I guess this latest COVID Act, I forget its exact name, American Recovery Act, I believe it is, something of that sort. We understand there's a provision in there for lost revenue recovery that we're looking into with county general government, and we hope to look into that. But other than that, we've are coming through the pandemic as good as anybody else. Obviously not been as heavily affected as, you know, the school districts and other entities. So with that, we'll give it a rest and see if anybody has any questions on road.
Commissioner Polsdorfer had his hand up a little while ago. I don't know if he still has a question.
Thanks, Ron. In the vein of infrastructure, I just wanted to mention to folks, I've had discussions with McLaren as they're getting ready to get their new hospital open about the possibility of pushing Bennett Road all the way through. So we'd have an additional east-west corridor through the township to lighten the load of ambulances that are going to inevitably be on both Jolly and Mount Hope. They are very much interested in doing that as well. Having multiple access points to the new hospital will be important to them. They did have a meeting to discuss their wish to have that happen with MSU last week. And we are continuing the discussions and working on what needs to be done. I've got a call tomorrow with Congresswoman Slotkin's office to figure out if this project could potentially be one of the 10 earmarked projects in the district that might make sense for her to push at the federal level. And with that, I'll turn it back over.
All right, thanks. Any questions other questions for Bill or Kelly on the roads? You kind of focused Meridian, East Lansing area, but anything happening out in Williamston or other places that you want to mention, Bill, or not?
Out in the rural parts of the county, we're going to be having another big chip seal program and what we call crew paving. That will certainly, I'm sure, touch in Williamstown Township. I don't have anything specific out there for this year, but we're typically in most of the townships with crew paving and chip sealing as we are every year.
Okay, thanks. We also have the director, Kata, here. Kata, you want to chime in next? Let's see what happened. Brad, there you are.
Hi. I saw some hands go up. Did you want to complete those questions before I start, Mr. Supervisor?
Okay, I don't see any hands other than the one I had from Mark.
I see.
Dan has his hand up.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, it was my hand.
Oh, physically hand. I was looking for the signal.
Sorry, I will give a virtual hand next time. Used to give a physical hand.
Virtually speaking, you're called on, sir.
So, Director Conklin, I met with MIDA today, and they have seen an increase in fatalities for the construction workers that work on our road projects. I know it's probably slightly less of a concern with many of the county projects where you close the roadway down, but would you like to take this opportunity to give your PSA to the public watching at home about the importance of slowing down in construction zones and respecting the men and women who work on these projects every year?
Yes, absolutely. I guess I neglected that we're being watched at home on television. Thank you for bringing that up, and absolutely, I would remind all folks as we head into the road construction season to drive carefully and not drive distracted or intoxicated, and to be on the lookout for road workers of all kinds, whether it's maintenance or construction. Appreciate bringing that up. It's very important that people drive carefully, and particularly in work zones of all kinds around the state.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, now back to Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Hello, Frank. Hello, board members and other guests and public at home. What a year, right? I think the most exciting thing for us is we have said thank you to Dan Opsimer for his tenure on our board, and welcomed Phil Duchesne from your trustee board to our board as the representative. So I've known Phil for a long time on the Transportation Commission, and look forward to working with him, and thank Dan for his partnership. Boy, we got hit hard over the last year, and in March I reached out to the township manager as well as other cities when COVID hit, and we shut down fixed route for the first time in CATA's history and did a curb to curb operation. And quite frankly, we weren't sure it was going to work, but it was the best decision and the safest thing we could do. And we brought in 10 new temps to work the phones, and we started reaching out to folks with medical needs like dialysis and cancer patients. We had them in our roles, so we reached out to them and started putting together schedules to make sure that they were getting to their appointments. We made the decision to send home all of our workers, including our union folks, for about 9 weeks with their bid pay, and asked anyone that wanted to drive a bus or turn a wrench, we would give them time and a half for every hour work. And we spent quite a bit of money to keep those folks safe and to continue operating that curb to curb service. It was very popular, and we were able to serve essential workers well into the summer when we started restoring service again. As you can imagine, ridership was decimated. I mean, we went down to about 25% of our total, and have started to recover, but it's fairly dependent upon the universities bringing students back. The other challenge we were talking at our board meeting is that, in the past, we would want to stuff as many people into a bus as we possibly could safely. And now we've got to have social distancing. And so that's where a lot of our federal money is going to be, to continue operating levels of service that serve the public, but also space it out so that we don't have full buses. So if that wasn't fun enough, we continued our program of trying to advance on those commitments that we made, not only to Meridian Township, but also the other members of the public. And so within the last year, our board of directors, for the first time, well, I shouldn't say the first time in maybe 20 or 25 years, we are now going to research and begin advertising on our buses and potentially on shelters, and that will bring a new local revenue source into the CATA system. Probably the biggest news, which is really hitting the press this week, is that we have joined arms with our other county systems, Clinton Transit and E-Tran, to provide free vaccine trips to anyone that needs them. And I need everyone at home, and I need everyone in your guest roles here to understand that if someone has a vaccine appointment, call one of the transit authorities or call CATA, and we will call the other transit authorities to make sure that that trip gets scheduled, to keep those lines full. We are going to be updating software systems. We're going to be updating our fare boxes in the next couple of weeks. That will be the precursor to us going with contactless fare boxes, and really leap into the future here. So regional is definitely on our mind, and big things to come. We're very excited about it. And I know one of the big projects that we've committed to Meridian is the Pass Web application. We've just installed a brand new server, and in fact, tomorrow we'll complete that installation, and we'll begin testing that system within the next 2 weeks. So in the interest of time, if I could let my deputy Andrew tell you a little bit about ridership, and I'll pass the torch here. Andrew?
Yes, thank you, Brad. And again, good evening, everyone. So with respect to the Meridian Ready Ride, if we just kind of look at a 6-month snapshot, and this is data through February of 2021, going back through August, the rides on the Meridian Ready Ride specifically are hovering right around between 600 and 800 rides per month. If you were to look at the same 6-month period a year ago, we were looking at 1,400 to 1,900 rides per month on that service. As Brad mentioned, overall ridership is down. We look at our fixed routes in combination with all paratransit services. That's all the small bus in and around the Lansing area, but also in the out county. We're looking at right around 8,000 to 8,500 rides per day. And before the pandemic really struck, we were right around 50,000 rides per day with MSU in full session. So it's slowly coming up. We see continued growth and look forward to continuing our partnership with all of you. And on behalf of Brad, I'd just like to thank everyone for their support.
Thank you. Is that it, Brad? Okay. Now we have the library system. I know East Lansing's got its own library, but the rest of us share in Cattle, I believe.
Ron, Tammy has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Where's the hand? Okay, I didn't see it.
Tammy.
Hi, thanks. I know this Zoom facilitation is not the easiest thing in the world. Actually, just wanted to thank Mr. Funkhauser. In my day job, I work with older adults, and the support you've been offering, especially with the vaccine rides, has been tremendously appreciated and welcome. And also the conversation about regionalization and not making it not just a conversation. There have been some real changes to that, and that's greatly appreciated. And we in Hazlet, we are in the unique circumstance where we actually touch multiple counties. You know, like Meridian has multiple school districts, we have multiple counties. So that regionalization is something that's still relevant to us as well. I may put you on the spot a little bit here, and I apologize for doing that, but having this forum, we have been talking about and promoting the various test sites. I think Mr. Cook mentioned it, the various testing sites that are going to be open up for that window post spring break. And we're definitely trying to encourage our families to avail themselves of those test sites if they have happened to travel. But none of them are physically located in our district boundaries. And we've had some families sort of ask us about that. So could you address how families might be able to access? Is that something that would be a ready rideable, maybe a curb to curb type opportunity? I know we've been focused on the vaccines right now, but the testing right now seems to be as urgent as it was, 6 months ago or more. So
Sure.
that was a rambly way to ask. What would you recommend for families who want to get to those testing sites?
Sure. In fact, I'm learning more about it. You'll pardon me. This is my first pandemic. I was trying to be funny this morning on the radio, and it kind of went over about like it is now. I would recommend that we involve Andrew and have a separate conversation, because as I was thinking about the reports from the school districts about people coming back and needing that testing and other testing sites opening up, there's another opportunity for us to collaborate regionally with the other systems. And so not to dodge the answer of your question, but I'm very interested in helping you solve this. And so let's connect tomorrow and get some people around the table and solve it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, now we go to Scott.
Thank you, Supervisor Stajka. I'll give you just a brief update on where we've gone through as a library system, and then where we're going as well. To being a public service organization, we had to quickly pivot during the pandemic, and not allowing the public into our space was a huge hit to our services. And so we had to, again, quickly pivot, and Tom and Betsy will probably reinforce this. We started a service model where your library items were either brought to your car or brought to your door, and it ended up being very, very successful for us. So we ended 2020 with circulating just around 1.5 million items, and we actually had the highest number of library cards that we've ever had as an organization. And so it showed us that we were still making connections with our community, and it was obviously a service that they needed during a pandemic here as well too. And we started virtual programs as well. And Betsy has a superstar at Okemos, and Tom Schultz, he's the children's librarian there. He did virtual story times, and some of the families would send us pictures of their family taking part in story time at home. And Tom at Hazlet has Kate Newcomb, who did the same thing. And it was truly moving for us to see families connecting with the library in that way. And it reinforced that we were on the right path, but we had to take a slow and steady approach before we started to get the public back into our facilities. So shortly after that, we continued curb and doorside pickup by allowing the public to come in to use public computers within our facility. And we were working on getting people in to actually browse our collections, and that is scheduled to start on May 3rd. We hope we don't have to have a delay due to a growth in the pandemic, but that is our timetable for now. And it's funny, we have kind of an even split from our members. We have some who are not comfortable yet coming into our facilities and want us to continue curb and doorside pickup, which we are going to do. That might be a service that is going to be very difficult for us to take away now that we found out actually how successful it has become. But we know that a number of individuals actually want to come in and browse our collections as well too. So again, we have a safety measures in place. We're getting staff training. We're getting our facilities ready because a number of our staff are actually out working in the public space due to us having to have our staff work at least 6 feet apart as well too. But 2020 was also a very good year for us for partnerships as well too. We partnered both with Hazlet Public Schools and Okemos Public Schools in getting each student a library card. And so that is called our Student Success Initiative. We started it with all of the Ingham County school districts in our service area, and Hazlet and Okemos were very valuable partners with that. We've seen a definite increase in the use of it, especially with our digital collection, which has circulated just under 1 million items since we started it. But we also heard stories from not only just students, but individuals in our community about the need to access reliable broadband internet. And it's funny that I mentioned that because I just got a message that I'm on an unstable internet connection, that it might go out. But you know, it shows the need in our community. And one of the things that we realized during the pandemic is while the library circulates materials, it's also the place where people go to access broadband internet and to use our public computers as well too. And so one thing that we focused on in 2020 and we're going to focus on in 2021 as well is equitable access to technology and to broadband as well too. And we kind of have a three-legged stool approach to that. And so it's access to a device, access to reliable broadband internet, and then access to someone who can actually help you use either the device or technology. And so that's where we're looking for partners with that. So we have a good model in place at our facilities, either using our facilities or as Betsy will reaffirm, the Okemos branch gets a lot of use for its Wi-Fi in the parking lot as well too. We just had in 2020, we had about 7,000 sessions just by using the Wi-Fi in the parking lot alone. Hazlet had the same thing. They had about 4,000 sessions just in their parking lot alone. And I know Tom has some plans to add some patio furniture on the outside of the facility so people can start to use that more comfortably as well. But one of the things that we'd like to do is expand that out into parks, to municipality buildings, to other public spaces in our communities, because we see that people are driving up and using it in the library parking lot. We know that students drive up to schools and use it after hours as well too. And so that's one area that we would like to partner with some community partners on. We already have some items in our collection that help with that. We circulate Wi-Fi hotspots in our community. We have about 200 of those, and those are always out. They're never on the shelf. We added devices to that as well. We have about 50 Chromebooks and about 25 iPads that go out to our community members as well too. And again, those are never on the shelf. And what that shows us is there's a definite need in our communities that access to technology and the broadband internet isn't a nice to have anymore. It's an essential utility. And what we know as a library system, we're not going to solve it. But if there's ways that we can make an impact in individuals' lives where they can actually have a connection and either work or go to school and either from home or do their schoolwork after hours or apply for jobs or work after hours as well too, we know we can make an impact in their lives. And so that is going to be one of our primary focuses for 2021. And we would be happy to partner with any of you on ways that we can do that, whether it's bringing it to a public space, whether it's working to some type of public Wi-Fi, or whether it's getting devices in the hands of individuals as well too. And I'll end on that and I'll also turn it over to Betsy and Tom if there's anything that they want to add as well.
everyone. I'm Betsy from the Okemos Library. As Scott said, we plan to reopen for public browsing on May 3rd, which dovetails nicely with open registration for our annual summer reading challenge, which is for the entire family, kids, teens, and adults. The focus for students is to maintain and strengthen their literacy skills by making reading fun. And we do this through games and activities and little small prizes. I don't know if you can see what I got on my hands, little hand puppets. And it's amazing to me how much reading adults will model for little pieces of chocolate. We will continue our virtual programs throughout the summer, but we are planning to add outside activities as safety and the sun allow. For updates, as always, you can give us a call, visit our website, our social media pages, or hopefully come into our libraries and personally ask us. We're anxious to see everybody in the next coming weeks.
Very good.
Thanks. Yeah, so
yes.
and I guess I'll just add again, my name's Tom Moore, head librarian at the Hazlitt branch. That, you know, I'm kind of new to the area over here on this side of town, but still learning the community. It's nice to really see some faces and get to know some people. But, you know, one of the things that I think has been interesting during the pandemic here is that cattle, and it sounds like all of you have found some really creative solutions for solving some of the issues that were in front of us. And one of the things that I look forward to is, you know, kind of figuring out how to keep some of the things that are really working and, you know, combine those with some of the things that people really enjoyed about the library, and I'm sure some of your services. So going forward, you know, hopefully we'll be able to keep that contactless service and some of our grab and go services that, you know, let you just ask for the librarians to pick out books and pick them up and go without having to do any of the work. So, you know, it'll be an interesting ride, I think, as we move back towards normal, but lots of opportunities exist. And this meeting is definitely one of them. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right, lots of hands up. Start with Mr. DeShane, our treasurer from Meridian.
Scott and Betsy and Tom, thank you for attending. I think it's the first time we've had cattle at this meeting. Our residents, after police, fire, and schools, they put libraries right up there at the very top of their list of the most important services that they expect from the community and from local government. And Betsy and now Tom are both been very involved in the community and really active librarians and out there making a difference, programming and being involved in lots of different ways. And that means a lot to us on the board. That means a lot to our community members. So you've made some great choices with your two librarians here, Scott, and please support them whatever way you can, because the libraries are extremely important here in Meridian, as they are for East Lansing as well.
Thank you. And you know, I'll just add to that. We talked about, you know, you talk about the schools that you have in Meridian, and you talk about the parks as well too. And it's the Student Success Initiative where we got students library cards that started in Meridian. And you talk about when Mayor Shore talked about increasing visits to public parks, we started with our story walks, which we've spread throughout Ingham County. That started in Meridian Township as well too. So again, we feel that the same partnership, and you have two of our best with Tom and with Betsy.
We don't want anybody to think this meeting was called so that people could say nice things about Meridian. We called it for a lot of reasons. Thank you for the compliments, but we're anxious to hear from every community, and everybody's doing great things. Dan, you had your hand up.
Yes, I would also just echo my thanks to Scott and Tom and Betsy. And I can also concur with Betsy's assessment on candies being a very good incentive as the father of an 11-year-old with autism. Those are some of our most effective applied behavioral analysis tools that we exercise in the home. So Scott, one thought that comes to mind based on what you were outlining. Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My microphone was covered by my paper there for a minute.
No, we can hear you
talking
fine.
about expanding broadband to parks. I'm not sure if you're aware yet, but I do know that the county Commission is having a conversation about using their American Rescue, their ARPA funding for broadband and parks. So I've had a conversation with a couple of commissioners about that. And then of course we get funding here in Meridian. And so if there's a concerted effort, I think we in Meridian would be very interested in looking at that for our park system to complement the county park system. So I just wanted to make you aware of that so that you can reach out and have those conversations. I know Commissioner Stivers from Hazlitt, who couldn't be here with us tonight, chairs one of the committees in question that will really kind of lead the purpose of the ARPA funds. And then Commissioner Grebner from East Lansing is the other. And then we obviously have a broadband access is one of our goals in the township, and we have even a more broad perspective on that, but I'll hold that until we get to that point in the meeting. Thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? All right, well, that was a nice segue, because the next thing where I was going to go next is I heard a few themes here that were repeated by more than one jurisdiction. Broadband being the one that was repeated the most. Equity and diversion, inclusion, etc., was another one. Pathways, the use of the federal funds, of course, was throughout, and this new electric vehicle system ideas as well. Broadband, as was mentioned by Trustee Osmer, is one of Meridian's goals for the year. We've got a committee and staff working on that. And I know that other groups that we heard it tonight are working in that direction, and there's federal money now available for it. And one of my thoughts in terms of the timing of this, having this meeting, which, we always do it this time of year every year, is that the timing is right in terms of maybe talking about some regionalization of the idea of broadband, because with the money pot there, maybe we can have more success if we bring several communities, or maybe even the entire mid-Michigan together with a broadband program. We have a lot of young people, whether it's because they're out in the country or because their families just can't afford it, don't have the kind of access that others do. It affects them in terms of their schooling. We have people now that are working out of homes, and sometimes their job depends on it, and yet they don't have, they're barely making enough money to feed their family and put a roof over their heads. And they don't have decent broadband at home. So there's a lot of aspects to broadband that's become even more important in recent days. So I guess I throw it open to open discussion here as to ideas and thoughts, and maybe doesn't have to end today. Maybe we can have people down the line getting together. Right now, as I said, in Meridian, and Trustee Jackson is on here, has been a big part of it. We have a whole initiative towards working towards broadband within the community. I know it's important to our districts. It's important to our neighbors. So, Mr. Osmer, so you have your hand back up.
Yes, I would just like to build off Supervisor Steicha's comments on this. So we recently had a board retreat where we talked about this goal that we have a little bit more concisely. And so what's unique when you look at communities like Linden Township and Washtenaw County, or Marshall, Michigan, that have actually created public broadband networks, most of them are trying to address the issue of access. But then there's also the communities that have at least providers with providing some level of access. Now the stability of the speeds and the cost are other factors. And so in Linden Township, what we learned, or at least what I learned and what we talked about as a board, was you had a rural community with very little access. And so they levied a millage bond, similar to how our public schools build their elementary school buildings, which we've heard about. And they build the network, and then they contract with a private provider. In contracting with that private provider, it's usually about $40 a month. And in Linden Township's experience, it cost about $3 million to get the network created across the township. So when I look at the issue from, globally for every community, when we look at cost, accessibility, and quality of the service, we look at what we get from the existing providers, getting Comcast high-speed internet, just like their second tier speed out of their 5 or 6 tiers, you're looking at $1,200, $1,500 per year for that service. when we look at what the townships are paying that have already built these networks, 3 mills for a homeowner in a $200,000 house is about $300 a year. We're about 1/4 of what people are paying for Comcast. Conversely, upping it to, let's say, a $400,000 home, at those 3 mills, you're paying about $600 per year to build that network. So still, roughly about half the cost of a minimal speed plan from the private sector. And then from there, you still have to deliver the service. But what we talked about at our board retreat was, what if we actually made it a public service? Because when you look at $40 per home, which is what some of these communities have contracted for, we've got 17,000 homes in Meridian. So when you do the math, that's about $8.1 million in revenue per year just for providing the service. That's a lot of staffing, that's a lot of servers, and that's a lot of IT support to run the network. So, from my perspective, the highest and best use for every community, urban, suburban, and rural, is to have an actual public network. I think what we've learned is that broadband needs to be treated as a public utility. At the very least, it needs to be regulated like our energy utilities, but we're not really in the driver's seat here at this table because we don't have federal, we're not in Congress and we're not in the state legislature to impose those kinds of restrictions. So that was kind of my idea for how we could actually get at this problem. I know that Congresswoman Slotkin is having roundtables and conversations on this issue, but I believe when you look at the numbers, it's possible to create a true public utility and actually save everyone, pretty much everyone who isn't living in, a $5 million home money. And when we look at equity and access, it would resolve that as well, because if you're living in an apartment or a, affordable home, the cost you pay for that service is going to be proportionate to, your economic means, at least somewhat. Versus today, it's just a flat cost for service for the most part. There are some incentives for low-income families, but then there's a hard threshold and everyone's kind of kicked out the door. So those are kind of some of my thoughts, just to build on what Supervisor Stika said in terms of whether or not this is something where, there could be regional collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't want to call anybody out, but Jesse, I'm wondering if East Lansing has had some thoughts on broadband and where it might be thinking about going or anything like that.
It's something that's on my mind, although I don't know that there's been a larger conversation. I know that, we had not just our resident population, but also our student population working from home for a large percentage of the year, and our network was definitely taxed. In my own household, my husband actually works in internet infrastructure, and we had to add a second line to our house because so I'm now paying another company that's not the company that's within our family to get enough broadband to Zoom 3 students and occasional council meetings from my house. So it's, I would say that if anything, the pandemic has proven that it is not an option any longer for us, that it's not a luxury, that it is a necessity for modern life. We've just become so dependent on it. And so, yeah, if that conversation is happening, it has not included me, which does not mean it's not happening, but I would certainly do anything that I could to connect the right people together to continue that in a regional conversation.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Robin, anything happening with Williamstown Township as far as discussions about broadband and need for it, et cetera?
Actually, we were just talking about this the other day and trying to figure out, how we could do something like that when we don't have the same density of people, that everybody else has. But I think we hear from our residents all the time, especially, during the pandemic, when they have 2 or 3 children doing school from home and the parents are trying to work, and, there's just not enough access. So yeah, we're in the same boat, and we would definitely be interested in continuing a conversation to see how that might benefit our residents.
Any other community leaders that are here that want to get involved or talk about this issue? Or I think the school districts are all interested in it, obviously.
I would just say from the library's perspective, again, you know, it is one of our goals, and we see, I'm sure you hear it from your constituents, but we hear it from our users as well too, just the fear that they had of being left behind, or that they couldn't complete their work without a reliable connection to the internet. And all of us have even had it as well too. I've had it during this meeting. My internet has started to get flaky, but you see in some of the rural areas, what we find as well too is sometimes they don't even have the options. There is no commercial provider out there yet who has laid the network down for them to actually have a commercial provider to go through as well too. So from the library's perspective, I mean, anything that we could do to help and to be a community partner with this, we would gladly do so.
Any further discussion on this point at this time? Maybe what we could do is we could have people that are interested contact me, I guess, and then I can pass the word on to appropriate people from that decide they're interested, and see if we can put something together in terms of talking about it on a greater scale than just within our jurisdiction. It is so critical. Another one that came up several times is the whole thing about equity and inclusion, and making sure that our people are respecting each other, and understanding what racism really is and how it hides and comes out in ways we never expect, et cetera, and how to try to overcome that. I know that Meridian, this is another one of our goals. We have another group of us working on that this year. And I'm wondering if other communities have anything happening that maybe we can pull our brains together and come up with ideas on how to solve this horrible conundrum that our country has faced for hundreds of years, actually.
I can talk a little bit about what East Lansing's got planned. We are not rolling out as quickly as we wanted to because of, you know, general everything. We've hired, we put out an RFP last year for basically a cultural realignment training, which is going to be across our entire citywide, all of our employees down to, you know, everyone, not just administrators, not just council, but we've had a few of the initial meetings. It started with the leadership level, our council and our city manager. And then the next level is with our managers. And then we're going to move down into the individual staff departments. We did two meetings via video conference, and we just decided to postpone everything. But it's a fairly aggressive program, really facilitating conversations with people to kind of realign our entire work culture within the city to have an eye towards equity and inclusion, really just kind of allowing people to know their coworkers better and to serve our community better. So I'm really excited about it. I think judging from the two sessions that I experienced as a council member, it is going to be very uncomfortable. There's a lot of self-reflection, self-analysis that goes into it that is very eye-opening. I think we all understand that we live with our biases, but we maybe haven't really opened up that case and looked at them very closely recently. And it's so anyway, if that's an indication of what we're in for, I think that we will experience a lot of learning. And then of course we're working on a realignment of our public safety department as well, specifically within our police department. We have added 2 new types of positions within our police. A social worker and I believe they're unsworn officers, which is our neighborhood resource officers. So it's a less intimidating uniform. They're unarmed. They're specifically to work within neighborhoods for kind of neighbor to neighbor problems, things that don't rise to the level of crime, but definitely create problems within the community. So we've had both of those positions in place for a couple of months now. Our command is learning how to incorporate them into their command structure, just understanding which calls are the best to send those people on. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the community. Our social workers are doing a lot of mental health checks and wellness checks, which is a big part of East Lansing's non-criminal policing. So that's kind of taking pressure off of our other officers so that they're available to do things that are more necessary for their training, I would say. But so far, we've gotten a lot of really positive community feedback about that. We are digging in on our own metrics in terms of surveying our community. We're doing a lot of officers tracking their own demographic data in terms of traffic stops to just kind of make sure that our laws are being evenly applied to residents, non-residents, regardless of race, economic class. We want to make sure that our laws are fairly impacting our community, and if the way that we are enforcing them is creating a disequitable distribution, then we want to address that. So it's been pretty, it's been a lot. I know that our police department is feeling a little rocked by just how much we're asking of them, how quickly, but I think that they've really rallied to what we've asked of them, really wanting, you know, they are public servants. And they really do want to serve the community. So I've been extremely impressed with the way that they've rallied to our call. I think we're gonna kind of give them a chance to get used to the changes that we've already made before we push forward with more. But it's been a pretty wild year, I would say, and looking forward to another wild year next year in terms of realignment within the community.
Are there aspects or is there things that you think your committee could share with others then as far as what you've been doing already and how it's been going?
Yeah, I think that I think that we would love to be part of that conversation. I check in with Commissioner Durrell Slaughter from the Ingham County Commission every once in a while to just kind of talk about some of the work that the county is doing on the same line. I think one of the things that's really critically important to me, I'm not sure if it's come forward in the conversation yet, but we have services that really are regional. I mean, we already all have sharing, you know, aid agreements with all of our surrounding communities. And we all know that, you know, when there's something big, every department jumps into action. But I think that we need to take that same attitude and teamwork that we've got going on with our criminal enforcement and our big game days and things like that. I know East Lansing definitely strains the system with some of our celebrations. But I think we need to take that same lens and apply it to social services. I would love to see some sort of safe sobering facility in terms of a county-wide access for people who are not committing a crime, but are dangerously drunk, intoxicated, or, you know, using some sort of other illegal substance that they need medical supervision to come down from. A lot of those individuals end up in our jails. So that's something that I think, you know, is a regional facility. We certainly can't tackle it ourselves in East Lansing. And I don't think it's going to happen quickly, but we will definitely need partners to get something like that underway. So I think, yeah, anytime that we're talking about traffic that moves over the borders of our communities, we need to be talking together in terms of enforcement. So happy to have those conversations.
Thank you. Yeah, we have committee that's working hard on it as well. In fact, our police department recently entered into an agreement with community mental health in terms of being able to have assistance from professionals right on the spot using telemedicine approaches when they're on calls that are where it's appropriate. So there's a whole lot of different things you can be doing. Trustee Jackson, do you have anything you want to tell us about what's been going on in Meridian that everybody might want to hear about? Sorry to get there. You go.
Thank you. I'm not sure I have a lot to add. One of the things that we found, the group that's working on the DEI kinds of initiatives in Meridian Township has found, first of all, that we felt that focusing on the internal culture of the township and the services provided in the township was our first goal, to look at, I think the kinds of cultural realignment training, I think that Ms. Craig talked about for the leadership and then the employees in the township, was one of our first goals. At present, we haven't actually started that kind of training among ourselves, but I believe we're scheduled to start in the middle of April. In addition, we've also begun to look at many of our practices, operational practices, in terms of hiring and peopling our service units, and found that we have already started initiatives to examine and change the inclusiveness and the equity in those units. And so, and kind of certainly a less strenuously structured process, Meridian Township is at this point, I could say, beginning and working on our efforts to change the culture, to alter the culture and improve the culture in our township.
So it sounds like it's something that, we can benefit maybe by learning from what East Lansing's already done in terms of making us move along quicker, perhaps.
Yes, I note that in East Lansing, they've also hired or kind of moved an employee to a definite DEI leadership position. We haven't decided to do that kind of thing in Meridian Township as yet, and we may not. And in addition, in East Lansing, I believe in terms of your public safety, you have you actually established the police review board?
We have not established it yet. And yes, thank you. I realized as soon as I muted that I had been remiss in not recognizing Elaine Hardy for the incredible work that she's been doing as our diversity, equity, and inclusion administrator. And I would have felt terrible. So thank you so much for the opportunity to revisit that. We have been having a citizen volunteer board, which actually one of the unique makeups of that board is that you don't have to be an East Lansing resident to serve. We thought that because obviously our police our community, whether or not the person is a resident or a visitor. And so we thought that it was appropriate to include people who had a high level of expertise, regardless of where they resided. So I believe we do have some Meridian County or Meridian Township residents on our study committee. But that board has been looking at police oversight for about, gosh, I want to say 6 months now, and we just gave them a 6-week extension. So they are creating a report to get back to us in terms of what citizen oversight might look like in our community. And then obviously that has to go through our police union contracts in terms of discipline structure within the contract, and then ultimately be approved by council. So we have not adopted that yet, but we are quite far along that path. And again, we're hoping that the work that that group has put in will save other people in the region some time and effort. We've got some really excellent experts on that panel with very relevant backgrounds. So they're a really good group of people. We just had we had a public engagement meeting last night with that group, which I believe had over 60 residents attend in a virtual meeting to give feedback in terms of what that might look like, which is just really, I think we've all on this board probably struggled to get resident feedback when we have different things that we'd like to put before our community. Going to a public meeting on your evening off is not necessarily a real compelling proposition. So I think the fact that we had such a strong level of interest from the public just shows how important these things are. So hopefully whatever comes out of that meeting can serve to put people in the region a couple steps further along.
I heard you mention the county. Mark, you want to say anything about what the county's doing in the DEI area? Diversity and inclusion, et cetera.
Yeah, and I missed part of the discussion because my oldest made our fire alarm go off upstairs making popcorn. So I apologize for turning off my video.
We've all experienced that, Mark.
We earlier this year established our task force, which is going through all county policies and analyzing them. They will be providing recommendations to the Board of Commissioners with the kinds of changes through each department that they recommend. And this was unanimous, bipartisan in setting this up. And the first step was putting a committee together to bring folks from all around Ingham County together to establish that committee. And you know, obviously with COVID, we've had to kind of alter the way that the group interacts, but we have not yet received the full breakdown of analyzing each department's policies and how they can be better. But I'm in regular communication with Commissioner Slaughter, who spearheaded getting this set up, and I look forward to working through changes at the county level to make sure that we're doing things staff and department wide to, you know, alter our policies in the future to be more inclusive.
Thanks. I know all the school districts have mentioned working in this area. Does anybody want to comment? Is there any way we can help each other in terms of dealing with equity, inclusion, et cetera? John or Steve, anyone?
You know, I certainly think you know, probably some more intimate discussions with some of the stakeholders that are knowledgeable with some of the initiatives would be helpful, so we're not all kind of reinventing the wheel. So, you know, if there's a way to, you know, get contacts and start get some meetings outside of this meeting together where we can kind of dig into some of the, you know, similar issues we're having and see where we can share resources and share what at least our learnings are, and where we don't have any yet, and maybe can seek those out together, I think would be fantastic. Because everyone's working hard and we all know this is the right work. I just think, you know, at least from my perspective in the Okemos schools, we can work smarter at the approach to this and harder, not just harder. So, you know, I'd welcome if there's a way to coordinate, you know, who would the contact folks be, and get a kind of a coalition of the willing that's willing to kind of sit down and come up with some agendas and work. You know, I'd welcome that.
Dave, you unmuted yourself. Does that mean you want to speak?
Yeah, no, I agree with what John says. I think that's a collaborative effort would be very useful.
Great idea.
Count us in. Yeah, you know, East Lansing would certainly be interested in supporting the effort. It's sometimes hard for me to keep my day job and my night job separate as they overlap so much, but certainly in my role in the MSU College of Ed, I'm happy to help coordinate that conversations as well. In some ways, you know, having plans that are responsive to our local context is really important. And in other ways, there are ways that we can leverage the support and be even stronger when we show that commitments right across school district and other municipal boundaries and show a shared commitment. So I think it's a both and. I don't know, sometimes my Minnesota accent comes out weird. And it's late, but count us in, and I'm happy to help with either hat I'm wearing.
Thanks, Tara. Yeah, I totally agree. You know, we still have to meet our local needs, which even between East Lansing and Okemos, we can have different equity issues. You know, even in that short, even within Okemos, we can have different equity issues. So I agree. I think it's either and or whatever you were saying. Totally, I understood it. So it's late, but I got you. So thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
David from Williamston, I assume that your district's also thinking about these issues, and you would have different issues than any of us probably because of in terms of the rural, et cetera.
Yeah, certainly we're definitely a more rural district, but very interesting ideas. Certainly interested in going forward with them.
Okay. Well, what these meetings are supposed to be all about is finding things that we're all worried about and can work together on. So any other ideas? So we've had other things we've talked about tonight. Haven't really gotten into it in any detail, and that's use of the federal money. Some people have mentioned it, and broadband is one way it can be used. And maybe if we can collaborate, we can somehow parlay enough money together to do even more with it. Any other thoughts, ideas, or things people want to bring up? I know we've been all talking a long time. Yes, Mr. Opsmer.
Yeah, I did have one question for Williamstown Township and the city of Williamston. So on the Red Cedar River Trail, that's something that I've spoken to Supervisor Wanda Bloomquist about before. I'm curious what funding sources you guys used for dredging the river and clearing the river out, and who you contracted with on those efforts so that we might learn from that and glean from that in continuing that work past Meridian Road.
Well, I can tell you what I know is that we had a grant that helped with the initial clearing of the river with the smaller log jams and so forth. I think it was a $25,000 grant, and Wanda could tell you more about that because she was heavily involved in it. And then we contracted with the county, actually, the Drain Commission, to help with some of the bigger log jams that we couldn't move with just volunteer labor, that we needed heavy equipment to do to finish it up. So so a lot of it was really volunteer labor. Got a group of people that have now become a kind of a force of their own in order to keep it clean, keep the log jams out of there to the best of their ability, and to work on the whole process of making it accessible beyond, our borders. So.
Thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. And then my only other thought on that from a regional collaboration standpoint, obviously more work would need to be done, but if Bill Conklin is still on with us, and then Mark Paulstoffer, take note as it relates to the Okemos Bridge and the new bridge going in over the river. And I know we have the pedestrian pathway and connection under it. But, in terms of the civil engineering, is there a way that could be used as a launch point and or an endpoint for the river trail work that's been done here over the years for the Red Cedar?
Is Bill still listening? I know he's here.
He might not be at his computer, but
he's there.
Yes, I did hear a question from me about the Okemos Bridge project.
Yeah, so Bill, earlier in the conversation, Williamstown Township and the city of Williamston were talking about the work that they've done in securing grants to clear the Red Cedar River for kayaking and other water sports. What are your thoughts on how the civil engineering is for the Okemos Road Bridge replacement as it relates to that possibly being used, that pedestrian connection possibly being used for kayakers to stop their guardrails or other systems that we put on there for kayakers to kind of stop themselves, or how could that be adapted?
I'm not sure I can answer that question off the top of my head. I believe that the bridge won't affect access to or from the river to the two parks there, Wonk and Ferguson Park, for canoeing and kayak usage. Whatever facilities are there for either getting into or out of a canoe or a kayak will remain. I don't think the bridge project will have any effect on recreational access to the river at all.
Okay, thank you.
Before we go any further, I want to acknowledge Lisa Babcock is on from East Lansing. I always want to acknowledge you. Lisa, you want to say anything to us?
Thank you for letting me join. And I don't really have anything to add at this point. I think Jesse covered a lot. We do have a spectacular program with DEI going with Elaine Hardy, and I'm always interested in promoting that and getting new ideas. And I love infrastructure, so just sort of taking notes at home. Thank you.
Okay. And I also owe an apology to Marie Howe from Bath. She was on here. I didn't realize it until she wrote a note saying she had to sign off, and I apologize to her in absentia, I guess. Never really called on her from Bath to get involved, although obviously she could have raised her hand, but I hope she got something out of it while she was with us. Okay, other people, issues, anything you want to bring up? Any comments?
I just general support for the idea of blueways, trails, water trails, linear parks in terms of trail systems. I think, before I jumped onto city council, I was the co-chair of the Ingham County Parks and Recreation Commission, and I still have a lot of, I think that the Red Cedar River cleanout was one of the last things that I had the pleasure of voting on, or maybe I just missed the final vote on it, but I'm emotionally invested in that project and certainly looking forward to putting my canoe in that river. So I think thinking of those as regional trail infrastructure, as well as, obviously being a water feature, but Blue Trails is really something that's gaining a lot of traction in the terms of recreation community. I think it's great to continue that infrastructure. We have a really fantastic network of natural waterways in the area. So just basically gung-ho support for anything like that.
Okay.
If I can just say really quickly, I
Yes,
did say in my
sure.
earlier comments, I did express appreciation to Ingham County Health Department and Linda Vale, but I just always like to take the opportunity to say how appreciative I am of all of our teachers. There are a lot of people who have helped us make it through this year, and our teachers and school leaders in particular have pivoted again and really stepped in to make sure that our students' needs have been supported. That's East Lansing and across the area. And so I know I always feel like I'm asking them to do even more, but I always want to also say how appreciative I am of all of the efforts of our teachers.
Very well said. Thank you.
Yes, ditto.
Yeah. Anyone else want to speak up or raise any issues or pose any ideas? Okay, I want to thank everybody for coming. The Meridian board members don't go away because we have a short little business aspect we have to deal with once we're through with the joint meeting aspects. It's been wonderful to hear from everybody. I know Dean's shaking his head. We didn't get to call on Dean, but anyway, hello, Dean. Sorry. And I really appreciate it. I think I've made good notes. I think we're going to have a lot more success with a lot of our programs because of us talking together like this. Thank you all. So what we're going to do is we'll have a recess so that those who want to go away can, and if you want to hang around, that's fine too. The board has just a few action items we have to deal with. Okay, well, for those who want to hang in there, that's fine too. We're welcome to our board meeting. We never really approved the agenda, so I guess I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Supported by Jackson. All those in favor, just put your hand in front of your face. That's 5 yeses, Madam Clerk. Okay, we have a consent agenda. which consists of communications, bills, the DNR Trust Fund grant resolution, which we had to do in order to get that money. Timeliness was important. Ratification of new full-time paramedic firefighter appointment. Again, timeliness, important that we do it today. And a revised electronic and telephonic meeting procedure, which we also need to get done before April. So that's why those are in front of us today in this meeting that normally we wouldn't have any other business. And I would ask for a motion to put forward and approve the consent agenda. Trustee Opsimer.
So moved.
Supported. Treasurer. Okay. Any need to take anything off of there or anything? All right. If not, we will call on Ms. Guthrie to call our roll to vote on this.
Supervisor Stika?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Guthrie votes yes. Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
And Trustee Opsimer?
Yes.
Okay, it's 5 yeses.
Approved 5-0.
Yep. Okay, we have a few action items beyond the consent agenda that shouldn't really take long. One is the transportation appointment. Former planning commissioner and current member of our Brownfield Authority, a very active citizen, Joyce Van Koevering, said that with her experience working for transportation, et cetera, she'd love to fill the vacancy on our Transportation Commission. And I think she'd be excellent at that. So I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Opsimer.
I move to confirm the supervisor's appointment of Joyce Van Koevering to the Transportation Commission for a term ending 12/31 of 2022.
Support.
Supported by Treasurer. Any discussion, Mr. Opsimer, or anyone else?
I would also just thank Joyce for service on the Township Pension Board as well. So
Oh, that's another one, yeah.
very active citizen, so many boards and commissions, it's hard to actually keep track of all of her service. And I appreciate the supervisor bringing this recommendation to us on short notice. I brought this to him at our last Transportation Commission meeting. Thank you.
All righty. Then we'll take a vote.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Supervisor Stika?
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Trustee Opsimer?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. We have a couple of resolutions. The first one is a resolution in support of our Asian and Asian American community. Obviously, the reason we're doing this now at this meeting is because of timeliness. The issue is right now at a peak. We have some terrible things going on in this country in terms of people's attitudes and mistreatment, including a horrible tragedy in Atlanta with regard to Asians and Asian Americans. And so we have a resolution supported that was put forth by a couple trustees. And I'd like to call on who wants to go forward. Dan, you want to go forward, or?
Trustee Jackson, would you like to? It's up to you. I don't mind either way.
I'll move to approve the resolution to condemn hate, reaffirm our commitment as a welcoming community, and to support our Asian and Asian American communities.
Okay, moved by Jackson.
And I will support that.
Supported by Opsimer. Any further discussion, Ms. Jackson?
I think you have very carefully noted the particulars in the resolution, which recounts the history of Asian Americans, Asian and Asian Americans in the United States, and recounted the horrific events that bring us to this point of reaffirming our distress with the modern day occurrences and our commitment as a community in supporting these neighbors and friends and colleagues, and continuing to do so as a welcoming community.
Well said. Meridian has a strong Asian American community. We have a lot of people from that portion of the world that live here, in terms of their ancestry, live here in Meridian Township, and it's important that we make it clear to them how much we support them and their right to be treated as everyone else. Okay, Mr. DeShane.
Thank you. I fully support this resolution. I thank the trustees for bringing it up. You're right, Riser Stika, Asian Americans make up a very large portion of our township. They are very much integral to our success as a township in terms of our success in schools and neighborhoods and a sense of community and connectedness that we have here in Meridian Township. And it's important to speak out when hate is evident on a national level. Fortunately, it hasn't impacted our township or our immediate area, but we need to call it out, and we need to stand behind our Asian American neighbors and citizens. Thank you for bringing this before the board.
Yeah, I want to thank you. She's not here, but Trustee Wazinski was one of the prime authors, along with Mr. Opsimer, on this, and Ms. Jackson. But Trustee Wazinski is the first one to bring it to my attention. Mr. Opsimer.
Yeah, and just to build on Treasurer DeShane and Trustee Jackson's comments, you know, this isn't anecdotal either, and it's not just about the incident in Atlanta. We are seeing a spike in these incidents occurring. Specifically, we have seen, according to Stop AAPI Hate, nearly 4,000 incidents have been reported since March 19th of 2020 to just February 28th, the end of February, across all 50 states, including 16 here in Michigan. And so those comprise, you know, physical assault, verbal harassment, shunning, workplace discrimination, and a variety of other instances of discrimination. And I would also just point out that in the resolution, we are encouraging residents to come forward if they do experience hate crimes or witness hate crimes, to report those to law enforcement, and also to bring all experiences of discrimination and report those to the Michigan Department of Civil Rights. So it's important that we, you know, take action as citizens to support and denounce hate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we need a vote.
Right, Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Trustee Opsimer,
Yes.
Supervisor Stika.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. The other resolution that, again, was timely, this was here, that we adopt this now because next month in April, and I'm not sure the date, I don't know how early in April, the parole board will be reviewing the sentence of Don Miller to see whether or not he can be released. Don Miller was a serial killer in the East Lansing area, overlapping into Meridian Township back in 1977-78. He killed 4 young women. He tried to kill a 5th one, after raping her, and she and her brother got away. Otherwise, there would have been 5 victims. He was arrested, but the problem they had with the sentencing was they could not locate the bodies of the victims, the 4 who he had successfully murdered. And finally, the prosecutors involved back in those days decided to cut a deal, which in retrospect, I'm sure many of them have had second thoughts about, but for them to lead to make him lead them to the bodies so that the families could come to some sort of peace internally in terms of knowing where their loved one was and et cetera, and what had happened. He got a plea for a less than a murder one, or the heinous crime that he actually committed. So he's actually eligible. He was actually eligible, would have been eligible already for parole even sooner than this. But in prison, he created a instrument by which he could have murdered other prisoners, and they caught him with it. So that extended his prison time. So now he's going to come out no matter what in 2031, unless he does some other bad act that extends his prison time. But right now he's up for parole. and communities throughout the Michigan area, mid-Michigan area, our own police chief and others, and even organizations and citizens within the township and neighboring communities are writing letters and communicating to the parole board saying, do not give an early parole. Let Mr. Miller stay in there as long as his sentence allows him to. So this resolution is short and sweet, comes to the point, and I'm asking that it be adopted and sent to the parole board as quickly as possible. Would someone like to make the motion? Ms. Jackson?
Yes, upon the recommendation of Supervisor Steiker and the other community groups, I move that the attached resolution urging the Michigan Parole Board to deny parole to Donald Miller be adopted and forwarded to the Michigan Parole Board prior to its hearing and decision with regard to Mr. Miller's parole.
Support.
Supported by the clerk. Any need to discuss this? I mean, it's kind of an unusual thing to do, but a respected psychiatrist here in town, Mr. Dr. Ackberg, whose wife had once been on this board, has said that this man is of the nature that if he ever comes out, it won't be long before he kills again. So I think it's for us to do this. We need to vote.
Treasurer DeShane?
Yes.
Supervisor Steiker?
Yes.
Trustee Jackson?
Yes.
Trustee Osmer?
Yes.
And Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, that was all the action items that I had for tonight. Is there any public on here, Mr. Geeves?
We do not have any public. We can, of course, offer the telephone line 517-349-1232 if anyone would care to make public comment. I do see Treasurer DeShane's hand is raised at this time, though, and there are no other public members in the Zoom meeting at all.
Well, we'll get to Mr. DeShane in a minute when we come to other matters for the board. All right, if there's no public comment, then we now come to Mr. DeShane. Go ahead, sir. Other matters for the board. You're muted, sir.
I think it was raised back during the general session discussion. I didn't have anything extra to add.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I want to mention something. We have within our communications quite a little packet put together by one of our citizens who's raising again the issue of railroad quiet zones. So we might want to all take a look at that. And it's an issue that we had in front of us a couple of years ago, and it kind of went by the wayside because of the costs involved. But we never really took action one way or another. So we might want to look at whether we want to bring that up in the future. The information is pretty well laid out there in terms of even what we did in the past. Mr. Osmer, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I also just wanted to take this moment. It seems like it's a night of events that are closing in very quickly on us. This morning, when I woke up and checked my calendar for the day, there was a meeting with Congresswoman Slotkin's office, and she was having a meeting regarding the fiscal year 2022 congressional budget. Apparently, there's going to be essentially some earmarks for various types of projects. I sent the link to the landing page that they have with information to Supervisor Steiker, Manager Walsh, and Deputy Manager Perry this morning. I didn't have a whole lot of time to expound on it, but the gist that I got was they were encouraging communities to bring forward projects that have already been discussed and vetted somewhat publicly. And we actually have to submit a one-pager expressing initial interest by April 9th. And then we have to submit the completed application by April 16th, I think it was, or 13th. I think it actually is the 13th. And so I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention to see, it is the 16th, sorry, I'm just checking. If anybody has any thoughts or ideas on various projects, the one that immediately came to my mind based on what they were expressing, they were looking at impact. Because basically they're going to take all the projects that they get, and the Congresswoman's office and every other congressperson we'll submit 10 projects for consideration. And then those will be vetted down to maybe 2 or 3 from the district in the actual budget process. And so Commissioner Paulstoffer actually hinted to this evening when he mentioned the Bennett Road project and the connectivity of Bennett Road to Collins Road, where the new McLaren Hospital will be by the Forest Road intersection. One project that came to my mind that we have vetted that has community support and that has impact beyond our region that I relayed to the 3 parties, Manager Walsh, Deputy Manager Perry, and Supervisor Stika, was reconstruction of Okemos Road and Hamilton Road from where the county bridge project will conclude up to where the county ended its construction work last season on Okemos Road. And then basically that stretch of Hamilton Road through the downtown and into the residential section. I raised that because we've spent a lot of time working on downtown Okemos and the Village of Okemos project. And we all know that that funding and financing is precarious. And we don't know how long we may or may not have to wait if that project ultimately falls through for the county to do this road work. And I thought, you know, that's a project that we vetted. It definitely has impact because it is a regional trucking route. So it has impact beyond just its immediate benefit to our community. And then lastly, it has benefit because we would do water and sewer work. There'd have to be storm management work. Storm management is a huge issue there. Water and sewer lines and things of that nature. So that also increases the adjacent or the other, you know, forms of infrastructure that would be updated as a result of the project would help improve impact as well. So I just wanted to put that out there for the board because this kind of crossed my radar this morning, and I think it's an opportunity for us at least to apply for something. The max is $12 million. And then there's varying types of projects that we can apply for, from, you know, 50-50 matches where we have to put up 50% to projects where 100% of it would be funded. That'll turn it over. Thank you.
Yeah, that's, unfortunately, so many things are being rushed at us right now, but we don't have a lot of time to get into things that we need to get into. But yes, I think you raised a really good potential project. I was going to mention that our county commissioner did bring up a project that he's got in mind, and maybe this is another one we can convince the Congresswoman to put forward. Any thoughts on it from other board members or other potential projects that maybe we could put forward to Congresswoman Slotkin? Treasurer.
Would this be a county proposal or a township or a joint proposal, since Okemos Road is a county road?
I think it could be a joint one, and they want community buy-in. So we would want to get letters of recommendation. They really were stressing community buy-in. So HOAs, like getting the Indian Lakes neighborhood, just as an example with this project, all the surrounding neighborhoods that are struggling with stormwater management, co-applying with Ingham County would be probably a big step in the right direction. You know, getting letters of support from our state lawmakers, anything that we can do to show community support was highly stressed. Village of Okemos would be another outlet for this. There's a lot of folks there.
A follow-up to the manager, do we have the staff resources to put something together for this by the 16th of April?
Well, gee, thanks for the opportunity. We followed up on it all day, and we actually had a Zoom meeting on at 4:30, and Mr. Perry's already been in contact with the county. The county's already taken the initiative on this area, and Mr. Perry, maybe you can take it from there.
Really, we focused on exactly what Trustee Obstrom was talking about, that downtown Village of Okemos area. We figured it's already been vetted, and there's been a lot of discussions, pre-discussions with the county and the developer about having the dollars to back some of the traffic concepts that they've been talking about for the last few years. So Bill and I have been really kind of racking our brains to figure out where we could find some additional dollars to bring to the table. And this new program popped up, and Bill's willing to assist with that. So we're gonna, I think, move forward with that. So unless the board has some other project, I think this is our best chance for viability and getting funding. So.
And I apologize. I meant to ask the manager and deputy manager for their thoughts at the conclusion there. So my sincere.
Yeah, this is not something that we need to have a motion or anything like that. This is something that we can charge the manager and his staff to handle. And it seems to me that they've already jumped on it almost immediately after Trustee Absmer brought it forward. Unless somebody has a different idea that they also want to throw out there for giving them another test to jump on. Trustee Absmer.
Yeah, I just had a question for Deputy Manager Perry. So Derek, do we anticipate that the county is going to submit more than one project, or what course of action are they taking in terms of their thought process on?
As far as I know, the conversations I've had with Bill, this is the only one they were really looking at as far as the road project goes. Some of their other stuff, they have, like, I think it's college road that they have to do in their tip already, because I was trying to get some of those dollars moved towards Okemos Road. But you know, he's got to spread his money around the entire county, so I understand that too. So this, I think, just happens to be a great opportunity for us. What we're going to need to do, though, the road department will be the applicant because it's a road project. They're the local road agency, but I'm going to lean on the developer. I'm going to lean on their engineers, the HRC. So they need to have skin in the game. And then we'll work with the drain office too, see if we can't work on that stormwater. I don't know how developed the stormwater plans are for the development. I keep asking if the drain office has seen anything, and they keep saying not really, or they ask me questions about what it is, but that is an important piece of the puzzle that we need to have in there and make sure that funding's part of it too. So we'll have something put together. We're not gonna have 90% design engineering documents or anything like that, but we'll have a good project put forward.
The short window we've got to apply actually might work to our advantage because we know what has to be done there. We've had some discussions about it, and the funding's been the issue.
Yeah. It sounds like it's a more realistic project than what Mark had in mind, because Mark's would be raw, you know, bringing it forward from scratch, whereas this one has got a lot of legs under it already.
And I would guess a lot more than what's the cap? $6 million, did you say?
12.
12.
I appreciate all the work that you and Manager Walsh put in today on this. Thank you for reacting quickly on, you know, very limited timing that we were given on this. And I'm told that this is separate from the talks of there being a really big infrastructure package of some kind as well. So that there could be another opportunity down the road. This is strictly, basically, pork barrel line items in the fiscal year 2022 budget that Congress is currently developing. So this is basically discretionary funding.
There's a movement in Congress to bring back the pork barrel approach to budgeting, and I think this is the first step in it, actually. Congressmen like the fact that they like to be able to go back to their districts and say, I brought you a few bucks here, a few bucks there, even if, you know, they spent trillions elsewhere.
I think the correct term is earmarks.
Should we vote? Should we vote in support so that we can put that in whatever letter that Ron authors for the application, or?
Derek, is that going to be necessary from what you've been able to learn?
I don't know if it's necessary, but I think it's a good idea. I think any supporting document that says this is a priority of the community, you know, will help, will only strengthen our application.
So is there a second to a motion of Mr. Osmer to waive the rules?
I'll second
it. All right. All those in favor of waiving the rules, so we go forward with the motion, say aye. Put your hand here. Okay. 5 yeses. Want to make that motion then, Mr. Osmer?
I would move to approve the Ingham County Road Department's application for one of the 10 project submissions to Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin's office in support of the Okemos Road and Hamilton Road reconstructive work.
Second, support.
Seconded by Jackson. All right. I think we've discussed it. We'll have a roll call then on it.
Supervisor Stika,
Yes.
Trustee Jackson,
Yes.
Clerk Guthrie votes yes. Treasurer DeShane,
Yes.
Trustee Ostmer.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Anything else for other matters from the board members? If not, we need a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Moved by DeShane,
Support.
support by Osmer. Any objection? Then we're adjourned. It's been a really, really interesting, and I think worthwhile evening. Thank you.